afternoon, Namibia and the world, and my name is Desire Kahia. Welcome to our Monday edition here at the Government Information Center. Today we are looking at the operations of Poca in Namibia as well as the AML prosecutions. And in studio I have an advocate. Who else to best discuss anything that is legal? And I always prefer to have conversations with people that can teach us something new. We do welcome Advocate Dolien Prosecutions. She is the head of training and capacity building at the Office of the Prosecutor General. Good afternoon, Advocate.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
No, thank you for availing yourself. As we say, this is a platform for educating each other, and a lot of times we find ourselves as Namibians just functioning on the day-to-day without necessarily knowing or understanding some of the nitty-gritties that do actually affect our lives unknowingly.
Exactly.
So today we're looking at Poca, and we've got terms like Poca and AML prosecutions. Yet we want to find out from you, what is Poca and what are AML prosecutions?
Thank you so much. It is a relevant question, especially at the introductory stage of our conversation. Poca is derived from a legal instrument, and it's referred to as, or the long form of it is Prevention of Organized Crime Act, which came into force in 2000 and 2003, 2009. Sorry, it's the Prevention of Organized Crime Act 29 of 2004. Okay. So yeah, that's basically what Poca is about. AML stands for anti-money laundering prosecution. So it's basically looking at those offenses, white-collar crimes offenses, and trying to make sure that crime does not pay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now that we know that, we then move on to what you spoke that falls under AML, money laundering.
Yes.
And we would then like to find out from you, what is money laundering? And basically, how does one commit the offense of money laundering? You know, is it, what we see on, your documentaries and the news where a lot of times it's syndicates that are involved or so on? Or are there actions that are usually or possibly can be carried out by just an individual or sometimes an individual unknowingly?
Yeah.
So I think this is the part where we would then like to know, what is money laundering?
Money laundering, simply put, really is the offense of cleaning dirty money. Money that was generated from criminal activities to make it seem like it was generated from a legitimate source. Okay. Basically, the process of money laundering typically involves 3 steps. So you have the process of placement, you have the process of layering, and then you have the process of integration. Now, if one has to zoom into the process of placement, this is when the criminal introduces the dirty money into the legitimate financial system. For example, a business, you create a front business like a shebeen, but the shebeen is really not generating funds. Okay. You derive your money from other illegitimate sources. So that's placement. Okay. Layering is when the criminal then conceals the sources of the dirty money through a series of transactions. So one would buy, for example, from the money which was derived from criminal activities, you will now use that money to now buy property, for example. You will transfer it into your investment accounts. So that's layering, really. Okay. And then integration that's the final step of money laundering. Here the laundered money would be withdrawn from the legitimate account to be used for whatever purpose. For example, it comes back to the criminal's personal bank account. So now what you've actually done is create sort of the circle where you've taken dirty money and sort of just covertly, place it into our formal banking system to make it seem like I'm doing something legitimate. Whereas in truth and in fact, you are busy with criminal operations. Okay. Yes.
But now if we look at the starting process, you spoke about placement.
Yes.
Simple example that you gave, easy. A tuck shop, a shebeen.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this place generates a large amount of money that at some point, is it a company that needs to be audited, or is there levels at which one starts becoming questionable about where your money is coming from? Because I'm just trying to think of the process. It's a shebeen. How do you clean money from a shebeen?
Let me give you...
Do you put it in the front of you are purchasing from the shebeen with this money?
Yeah.
Or do you get my point? I'm just trying to find that connection there.
I do get your point.
Yeah.
Let me stick with the example which I've given to you in the beginning. A shebeen, for example. If shebeens are supposed to be legislated, it's supposed to be registered to the Ministry of Trade, for example, and they're supposed to pay a certain tax. Now, for you to pay a certain amount of tax, you are now supposed to show that this is the money that I've generated from the shebeen. But now what happens is that, for example, you have this front company, or a shebeen, and then in the background of the shebeen, perhaps there are predicate offenses happening.
Yes.
For example, the sale of daga, cannabis, which is a prohibited substance in terms of the law.
Yeah.
So much of your money is generated via the selling of cannabis, for example. And now this cannabis money, which is dirty in nature, is now made to seem like it's money which is now generated from the shebeen, which is a legitimate business. Yes. So that's how we distinguish the placement of dirty money.
So you actually submit it through your deposits into, for example, your bank accounts, or into your paperwork.
Yes.
As you now have to present to the various offices, like you said, your tax office and so on. So that's where you place. That's where the term placement comes in.
Exactly.
You place that dirty money into the system through this particular structure.
Yes.
Okay. As I said, we are learning. It's a learning platform.
Yes.
You do know that you are highly welcome to join us here in this conversation. If you have any questions, I'm sure the advocate here would be willing to help you understand what it is that we're talking about and how it works. Please do so through our social media platforms. You are welcome to do so. On Facebook, you can find us at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. You can also find us on our YouTube platform, and our handle there is MICT Namibia, MICT Namibia. A little later on, we will be opening our lines. But for now, while we wait for you to communicate through those platforms, I get back to our advocate, and here I would like to find out what is the effect of money laundering on a country, especially I think a country as small as ours. We've got about 2.5 million people, and why is the fight against money laundering so important?
I cannot overemphasize this particular point because when we speak about money laundering, it may seem like a run-of-the-mill topic, but really, it is at the essence of global trade, as an example. Now, the effects of money laundering are very severe, and it's very expensive to a point where it impacts the global economy. It damages the financial sectors that are critical for economic growth, for example. Now, the mutual legal assessment, we have mutual legal assessment. We are duty-bound as far as some of the conventions that we have ratified in the fight against corruption and money laundering. And these conventions are the United Nations Trans-Organized Crime Convention. We have the UNCAC as well, which is the United Nations Convention against corruption. Now, Namibia having ratified this convention, we have said that we will make sure that we implement some of the national risk assessment that was identified in order to say that, listen, if the Financial Action Task Force actually looks at our country, we're able to circumvent trans-organized crime, because money laundering, it's basically a syndicate offense, and it's not only operational domestically, it can carry internationally. So if Namibia is found to be non-compliant, for example, with the international obligations in respect of the investigations and prosecutions of money laundering and related offenses, Namibia could be grey-listed by the Financial Action Task Force. And this could lead to the imposition of sanctions, restrictions on cross-border trade, which can later on affect our import and export, and which can later on ultimately result in the decline of our general domestic product, our GDP, because we won't be able to no longer buy and sell internationally because we are now being sanctioned. We are not prosecuting this type of offenses. So it is really important that as a country, generally, and as a nation, we fight against money laundering, corruption practices, and related predicate offenses.
Wow. Tentacles that touch far and wide if they are not reeled in. We do have a call line that you can actually call. We're opening it up for you right now. Our number here in the studio, 061, that's the area code, of course. 400-397 is the number in the studio. 400-397 with an area code of 061. You're welcome to call us in the studio if you have any comments that you would like to make, or if you have any questions that you'd like to ask. Now, I would then want to find out what is the role of the Office of the Prosecutor General in the fight against money laundering, corruption, and all other related crimes in this area?
Such a beautiful question. The role of the Office of the Prosecutor General really in the fight against money laundering, corruption, and other related offenses is principally we are the, I always say we are the biggest criminal litigating firm in the country, and we get that mandate through the Constitution via Article 88. So the Office of the Prosecutor General is really the prosecution authority in Namibia, and we are responsible for prosecuting money laundering matters on all other criminal investigations that happens nationally. It advises law enforcement, for example, on lines of inquiry. We do review cases for possible prosecution. We determine the charge in all cases. We prepare cases for court and apply for restraint and confiscation orders in respect of our Prevention of Organized Crime Act, including the maximization of measures to ensure the recovery of proceeds of crime. So what the Prosecutor General really did was to create a dedicated asset forfeiture unit, which is a specialized unit who actually deals with the confiscation and restraint of proceedings and have the power to undertake and guide money laundering investigations. Civil recovery work, for example, we have, in terms of our Prevention of Organized Crime Act, we have the Chapter 5, which is the non-conviction forfeiture. You understand? And then we have Chapter 6, which is the civil forfeiture of illegal gains of criminality. So what Chapter 5 basically says is that we do not need to, what Chapter 6 states is that we do not need to prove that you're guilty beyond reasonable doubt in terms of committing a predicate offense before we can come and take illicit gain money. So we can civilly go and obtain an order and restrain your properties and later on confiscate illegally gained proceeds of crime. Whereas with conviction-based forfeiture, which is Chapter 5 in terms of our Prevention of Organized Crime Act, we first must then have you convicted before we can take the money away, because the notion really is crime must not pay. That's the ultimate aim. So the Prosecution Authority of Namibia really has a long-standing commitment towards making sure that anti-money laundering policies are implemented as far as the Financial Action Task Force is concerned. The Prosecutor General, for example, has recently created, based on the recommendations from the mutual legal evaluation, we have created a committee that has to make sure that we implement the national risk assessment after we were evaluated as a country. Yes.
I don't know, I'll be the devil's advocate today, I guess. A wrench in the wheel type of situation. So you confiscate this laundered money, and it goes where?
Once the money is confiscated, we have the KARA account. KARA is the account where the proceeds from illegally gained money, if once the court has made an order on it, then it goes into that account. It's a state account, so all that money is being put in there. The money goes back to the nation, for example, where it will help with Millennium Developmental Goals, for example. If a third party is interested in this money, for example, the money was literally stolen from you, you will have an interest in that money. So you have a right to approach the court and you can get your money back through this action, yes.
But are these the documentations of Kara, for example, are they of public knowledge? Are people allowed to view them somewhere?
Indeed, if one has recourse to our Harambee Prosperity Plan and the pillars thereof, we are supposed to be as visible to the public. Transparency. Yeah. It's a pillar. It's part of the pillar of good governance. So yes, by all means, the Minister of Finance is in charge of that account because it's the line ministry. So yeah.
Okay. And then I also had another question with regards to prosecutions. Earlier on, you alluded to the fact that money laundering in most cases is such that it is carried out by syndicates.
Yes.
And these syndicates don't necessarily have to be local based. They can be sometimes operate cross-border, have cross-border operations, or have business ventures on different continents. Now, I want to find out, seeing that, the Office of the Prosecutor General basically is the bigger body in trying to curb this. What do you do, or what is within your mandate to do when you do find a syndicate that has foreign nationals involved?
We have within if you take a closer look to the Prevention of Organized Crime Act, there are provisions for mutual legal assistance, and those provisions ties into our extradition policy, for example. It also ties into our MIRCO, bilateral agreements, and so on. So if there are foreign nationals involved, I can give you an example of the current ongoing matter without actually going into the depths of the facts, where foreign companies were involved. So what then happens is that there are mechanisms for mutual legal assistance for this different foreign countries to then work together to make sure that justice is done. Because at the end of the day, it's all about following the paper trail, following the money, and disrupting illicit dealings and from people. Also, basically, disrupting people from becoming millionaires, from illicit gains, from criminal activities. Because in the past, basically, what used to happen is that a person will steal from the government, as an example. They will go to court. The due process will take place. You'll get sentenced to, for example, 10 years imprisonment, just as an example, and then ultimately you will come back, and from the money which you have actually gained through illegal means, you are now living a lavish life of a millionaire. So with the rise of Poca and all other legal instruments, we now try to really follow the money and make sure that corruption is corruption and related offenses, predicate offenses, and money laundering policies are put in place to make sure that crime does not pay. Yes.
You alluded to the rise of Poca being used heavily to try and stamp this out. And at this point, we would then like to ask, how does Poca help fight corruption and other offenses that could be predicate offenses to a money laundering charge?
Poca has basically introduced a more effective asset forfeiture regime that is used to ensure that any benefit obtained from criminal activities will be forfeited to the state. As such, one cannot become, as I said before, as I alluded to earlier, become a millionaire from crime. But now, money laundering with Poca, if you're found to be guilty of this offense, let's say for as an example, money laundering, it is classified as a very serious offense, and the seriousness can be found from the penal provision. It is so serious that if you are convicted of money laundering, you could be sentenced to 100 million Namibian dollars or 30 years imprisonment. So in essence, these hefty sentences may be deterrent to individuals and aspiring criminals.
We stick with that. Poca came into effect in 2009, I believe.
Yes.
You said earlier on. From your observations and operations as the Office of the Prosecutor General, do you believe that there has been a change with regards to the operations? Are they less? Are they more? How heavily is Namibia affected by money laundering?
Money laundering, and you will note from ongoing international symposiums, workshops, and discussions. For example, my office is basically responsible for the training and capacity building of prosecutors nationally, and part of our training and capacity building is it's cornered on training specialized corps of prosecutors to deal with Poca. In essence, what we try to do is to ensure that, as I said already, crime does not pay. Yeah, that's basically the bottom line. What was the last part of your question?
How heavily is Namibia affected by money laundering?
This is an international crime.
Yeah.
It is with the coming into fore of technology, the advancement of technology. It keeps plaguing all countries under the sun, if I may put it that way. It's a global problem. But I must say that with the coming into fore of the legislation, the legal frameworks that we have, the policies that we are putting in place, the realizing that one entity alone cannot fight this evil alone. We are no longer operating in silos. We are not saying we are the Office of the Prosecutor General and therefore we won't work with anybody else. No, the Prosecutor General has entered into, for example, mutual bilateral agreements with, for example, the Inspector General of the Namibian Police, where there are a task force, where different institutions are coming together in fighting this crime because of the very fact that it is there and we just need to find ways of fighting this crime. But our office has been successful in the prosecution of these matters. There is a recent case, the State versus Mane, where we have, for example, forfeited money to the tune of 20 million Namibian dollars. Yeah. That means that our office is really working hard. There are myriads of cases ongoing where asset forfeiture happens almost on a monthly basis. We have created a database as the Office of the Prosecutor General where prosecutors in the regions are reporting back to the Prosecutor General to say that for the month of July, for example, we have forfeited this much cars. So the criminals are becoming aware of everything which the office is trying to do, not just our office, but the law enforcement agencies together with the Office of the Prosecutor General in fighting against money laundering and related crimes, anti-corruption crimes and so on. Let me give you a practical example of the PJ has created what we call the backlog courts, which is part of our environmental crimes unit initiative, where at the beginning of this year we have forfeited close to 15 motor vehicles to the state. Last year, around August, the Prosecutor General went on a familiarization tour to the southern region, and we discovered that a fleet of cars, if I can just off the cuff remember that the total amount of cars, because I was there with the Prosecutor General, I was able to see the groundwork which our prosecutors are putting in the regions. And in the south, we went to Ariamsvlei border post, and I saw around 8 to 10 motor vehicles forfeited by the prosecution office to the state. So really the offenses are happening, the crimes are becoming more complex, but so are we becoming more trained and capacitated to deal with these crimes. Okay. Yes.
Your offices are very much dealing with living documents, and by living it's they are fluid. As the criminals, as you said earlier on, become smarter, so do your offices, and there is enough flexibility around this to allow for that maturity and, how do you call it, mutation of the various legal frameworks to try and make sure that they keep up with the criminals. As we said, it is a conversation. I always welcome you to our platform, and it is also a platform of educating each other. you might be aware of something somewhere that is happening within our community that the advocates here are not aware of, and this could be one of those areas of educating the advocates so that they can be aware of it and actually also do something about it. So you are welcome to drop your comments and your questions on our social media platforms through which we are live streaming this show. On Facebook, you can find us at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. And on our YouTube platform, our handle there is MICT Namibia. You can call us in the studio as well, and our number here is 061, being the area code, 400-397, 400-397. As we near the end of the session, though, I would then want to ask Advocate, you spoke about task forces and you spoke about your anti-corruption commission. I would then want to know, how big of a role does Bank of Namibia play in assisting your office with regards to money laundering?
The Bank of Namibia, being the central body, it's a major role player in ensuring that mechanisms are put in place where for example, through FIC, investigations are being, or criminal activities are being detected in real time. And as I said already, we have bilateral agreements with them, with the Bank of Namibia as well. They're sitting on the same task force with the Prosecutor General and our specialized unit, state advocates, and together as a team, we are fighting the scourge against money laundering, corruption, and any other related offenses as far as the white-collar crimes are concerned. So yeah, they are a major role player, and they do their part as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
But before I let you go, Advocate, I would then like to hit you with this one. Do you think the Office of the Prosecutor General is actually successful in its mandate?
Thank you so much. Our prosecutors are working hard, of course, with our principal, the Prosecutor General, and without a doubt, without any fear of compromise, without any fear of prejudice, I can state that, yes. And it's rooted on the fact that Namibia has recently went through a mutual evaluation assessment, which is aimed at determining the technical compliance to the Financial Action Task Force, which I spoke about before. Yeah. And this assessment really determined that Namibia's level of effectiveness it's on high. It seeks, what the assessment does is to seek and assess the adequacy of our legal and institutional and operational frameworks in producing the expected results. The mutual evaluation report has rated us moderate, and we were basically from SAMLAC, which is the Eastern and Southern African Anti-Money Laundering Group. Namibia came up on top. We were rated as moderate. We are basically, we did get some national risk assessment, some pointers where we can go back and make better, you understand? And we are looking at it now. We have a committee which was established to make sure that next time we are evaluated, we move a tire up. Yeah. But we are rated moderate, which means the Office of the Prosecutor General is working. And it's working hard in the fight against money laundering and corruption.
As a Namibian who wants to live comfortably, I'm very glad to hear that is the outcome of that particular assessment, because at the end of the day, whatever affects the country negatively, we need to remember we're the Namibians in the country. It takes away from us. We've got Anytime on the line. Good afternoon, Anytime. How are you?
I'm good.
How would you like to contribute this afternoon?
Yeah, I just want to encapsulate on corruption. Yes, this concept of corruption is not a new concept in this country. She started on corruption to combat corruption in this country. But if we listen on the radio, watch news, read newspapers, different information tools, they're just the corruption that are hearing. Now, from independence, even from the establishment of the ACC, trying to combat this corruption, which is not even doing enough. Until when will this corruption, process take place in this country? if he said that they are for combating corruption. Enough is not done. Corruption is still the snowball in this country. If we can address on that one, when are we going to see zero, tolerance to corruption in this country? If you think that that's going to work, that's my question to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. That was any time from Tumeb. Thank you for making the time to be part of the conversation this afternoon. And Advocate, I'll throw that ball at you.
The fight against corruption is ongoing. We have not given up on the fight against corruption. There is really no question about the negative impact of corruption on development, because corruption reflects on our democracy, on our human rights, governance deficit that negatively impacts on poverty and human security. So he is right. What I must say really is that as the Office of the Prosecutor General, we have the corruption unit, which is a specialized unit, where we have specialized prosecutors aiming to prosecute these crimes on a daily basis. Let's look at the fish rod matter, for example. The Office of the Prosecutor General has shown the dedication to fighting corruption by showing the nation of Namibia that we are not outsourcing in this fight. We are not going to a foreign country and asking for legal expertise to come and deal with the criminal prosecution of these cases. Our own state prosecutors are dealing with these cases on a daily basis. I see my fellow colleagues not sleeping at night. I see them sleep in the boardroom at times, and from the boardroom they go to court to make sure that corruption is nipped in the bud. But really, as a nation, we need to come together and stand together, because corruption starts with an individual. If I go to the bank and I know I came in last, why must I go and stand in front? It borders on corruption. Yes. Because my friend is the teller now, I have to be assisted first. So really, the fight comes back to all of us, but as an office, we still maintain our dedication to fight corruption without favor, without fear, and without any prejudice.
Yeah. Well put. Anytime, I do hope that she did assist in answering your question. At this point, I am rounding it off, but I would be amiss if I do not ask the advocates to give us her closing remarks on the matter.
My closing remarks really is to make a call upon the Namibian nation. The Office of the Prosecutor General it's operating on the pillar of transparency. If you are not happy with any way in which matters are being handled, please come to our offices. We are ready to assist. We have, as I said, I'm the head of training and capacity building. We have created a Facebook page, for example, and on that page we get information on a daily basis, and we are responding to requests which are made. So let's stand together as a nation and let's really fight against the scourge of corruption, money laundering, and let's just help prosecute these crimes, following the due process that is.
Exactly.
Yes.
I was about to ask about that part.
Yes.
But I like the way that you said it. Let us help prosecution. No? Prosecution?
Yes.
That's a nice way. Learned a new statement today, as I always do. As we say, we are learning, we're educating each other, we're communicating, we're having conversations about things that do matter to us as Namibians and that affect our country in a very gross manner. And we also try and use this platform to educate ourselves on what it is our lawmakers are doing to try and prevent some of these negative activities from persisting and also actually becoming the rotted areas or sectors that could affect us badly. As you said earlier on, it can have a great effect to the point of even affecting our GDP. But at this point, I would like to thank you for being part of our session this afternoon. I would like to thank Advocate for availing your time to really, come and dissect this money laundering thing with us. We highly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And from myself, Desire Kahiha, as well as my production crew, it is bye-bye until Wednesday.